Okay.
Yeah, that works.
All right, I'll send that out.
All right, perfect. Ms. Fishbeck, education?
Education committee did meet this week. We were mostly talking about a 5-year plan and creating ways to publicize to our community all of the amazing options that we have in our high school. So we had the head of counseling and Mr. Buser from the middle school come to our meeting, and we were discussing that we should have an open house for the high school. For 8th grade students to come into the high school, we should move that up to the fall because we've been doing a lot of those gatherings and information sessions really in the spring, and by that point, if people are looking out of district, they've already made their decision, they've already made their applications. We want to move up our timeline on that for this fall. We talked about having it be more of an open house format so that people weren't just coming in here, sitting here, watching a PowerPoint, where we could actually have a lot of students involved. Maybe do sort of a club fair, the way they do for the students at the beginning of the year, for the prospective students to learn about all of the different clubs. Have students throughout the school, along with any teachers that we can entice to come in and help out with the open house. And that way the kids could really learn from their peers, hear from other kids in town, what they're excited about, what they really like, you know, all the awesome opportunities that we have. So we think that would be really helpful for retaining kids within the district, and also helpful for kids who, you know, were planning to stay anyways, but just want to hear about all of the new opportunities and give them some ideas of things they might want to do when they start up in the high school. And as far as the 5-year plan, we were talking about beginning with the end in mind. So we would have the kids look at all of the things that are offered. Mr. Buser said he was going to look into templates, and he was going to look into making a list of all of the requirements in high school, because it gets pretty overwhelming and confusing about, you need 2.5 of this and 5 of this, and all the different categories, and just laying that out on the back of the template with exactly what you need in order to graduate, so that we don't run into situations. We've had a few in the past, and we have some students who've graduated from Camelot and have this problem when they get to college, in that no one's ever really taught them how to lay out the entire 4 years. So they get to a point and they realize that they have a class that they needed, for a prerequisite for something that they want to take, but they can't take it because they didn't realize that it was only offered in the first semester, or that that it was a prerequisite to this class that they want to take later. So beginning with the end in mind would be trying to sort of figure out what you think you're going to want to take, laying that out, working backwards from that. And then every year, it's obviously not a static document. You're not going to say, like, in 8th grade, you have to decide what you're doing for your entire high school career. Every year, you can go into your counselor and be like, hey, it gives a framework for what you might want to do. But if you say, hey, I thought I wanted to take AP Chem as a senior, but it turns out I hate Chem, then it just gives you a jumping off point to talk to your counselor and say, okay, now we can revamp that, we can go backwards, see what is offered, what you are interested in, and just sort of play around with all your different options, but in a way that's very purposeful, and that's really teaching them how to plan, so that they don't just look from 1 year to 1 year to 1 year and then be caught off guard that they missed something along the way that was required. And that was it.
That's excellent. That's really great. I like the open house idea. We talked in community relations, so there might be a connection on some of the ideas we came up with there. We could kind of piggyback on some kind of fun fall events, but I won't take your thunder.
Well, I think before we get started, one of the things that Mrs. Gervais said last night at the 8th grade parent orientation, she did a great job explaining what it would be like for students to sit in the flight simulator and get drone certified in high school and get flight certified in high school, but how much more impactful would it be to have kids walk in and see the flight simulator in action? And because maybe an 8th grader, 7th grader that doesn't know what aviation means in that context. So it is a great idea, and it was a good discussion both at education and community relations.
Mr. Petroselli, policy?
Policy is going to meet on Monday, we just decided, so we will have a report at the next meeting.
Finance budget, we did not meet this week, so there are nothing to report for that. Securities and facilities, Mr. Giganti is not here. Does anybody have any comments on that I don't think they met. Okay. Negotiations, Ms. Donis.
We did not meet this week, and we were looking to meet next week because it wasn't possible, so hopefully we'll be meeting the following week.
And I spoke to Dr. Racine today. They are working on the proposal, and he and I verbally made a pact that we want to get this done before the contract expires.
Great news. Delegates, New Jersey School Boards Association. I went through, I feel like I'm really echoing. I went through this week's, there was stuff on COVID, but I found a really interesting class on, it's about specifically African Americans and how to, it's a round table, it's being held by, on the federal level. We can register for it through NJSBA. It's in, I think, February 15th. I registered, it's a weird time though, it's 2 to 3:30, and it's talking about how to maybe reach out to these kids that are not normally doing well in more STEM-related kind of classes. So it did look very interesting. There was a very long list of things in this week's NJSBA, but that was one that kind of jumped out at me just for expanding horizons. That's all I have to report on that. Ms. Perlin?
The first meeting of the year for the Morris County School Boards Association will be held virtually next Wednesday night, and I'm registered to attend. So hopefully I'll have some things to say on Thursday.
Awesome, thanks. Legislative representative, Ms. Fishman?
Yep, there are a series of legislative updates, just to give you guys the brief edition. S4074 is addressing CTE teacher shortage. It eliminates the requirement to pass a basic skills test to become a career and technical education teacher. As an alternative, a prospective CTE teaching candidate can demonstrate basic skills proficiency in a manner to be determined by the New Jersey Department of Education. The bill will go into effect in the following school year. There's a wellness grant program, A4434, directs the State Commissioner of Education in consultation with Department of Children and Families to establish a student wellness grant program. The purpose is to provide grants that support school districts in implementing wellness, essentially is the point of that one. The governor conditionally vetoed the bill to revise the funding language to provide the NJDOE with flexibility to fund the grant program alongside other priorities. In addition, he recommended allowing for a pause for the grant program in the face of insufficient available funding. So I guess that one's a little up into the air there. School district regionalization, that one doesn't really apply to us. Teacher loan redemption establishes a loan redemption program in the Higher Education Student Assistance Authority to allow teachers to redeem a portion of their New Jersey college loans to assist state students' loan amounts for service as a teacher in a high-need field in a low-performing school. The new special education unit would create a special education unit within the Office of Administrative Law and require an annual report. The hiring retired teachers permits a retired teacher to return to employment for up to 2 years without re-enrollment in the pension system. The Board of Ed student representative requires that at least one student representative be appointed to each Board of Education school district and Board of Trustees of any charter school that includes grades 9 through 12. So we already have a student representative. Unfortunately, he doesn't attend often, but technically we have one, and it would be nice if we...
Mr. Suda and Mrs. Savio are looking for someone who wants to actually come to our meeting.
Perfect. I was just going to say, it'd be great if we had a student representative who was able to attend the meetings, because I think it is really important to hear from the students. So giving them a seat on the board is really essential. Then enrolling students with military families permits dependents of a military member to enroll in a school district in advance of the military member's relocation. Probably doesn't happen too often around here, but just in case. Reporting discipline data requires the school report card to include a demographic breakdown of students who receive disciplinary actions and establish a statewide database concerning various disciplinary actions, which goes into effect for the next school year. AAPI instruction requires school districts to provide instruction on the history and contributions of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders as part of the implementation of the new student learning standards for next year. The Legislative Youth Council creates the New Jersey Legislative Youth Council. The purpose of the council is to provide a forum for New Jersey's youth to participate in the democratic process, to advise the legislature on perspectives, opinions, needs, developments, and welfare of the youth of the state. The teacher workforce data requires compilation of data in the issuance of an annual report on the New Jersey teacher workforce. The law goes into effect in 6 months. District website accessibility requires the website and web services of the school districts, charter schools, etc. to be accessible to persons with disabilities. The NJSBA has and will continue to advocate for state funding to offset the district's costs in implementing the new statewide accessibility requirements, because unfunded mandates again. School bus safety creates the Office of School Bus Safety. The office will be charged with overseeing the school busing industry and to coordinate enforcement and accountability among the department, school bus drivers, and school bus contractors. And then Responsible Collective Negotiations Act concerns the settlement of labor disputes among public employers and employees. In general, the bill only applies to the state and unions representing state employees and does not affect public school districts. However, the bill contains a couple of amendments to the New Jersey Employer-Employee Relations Act and a 2018 law known as the Workplace Democracy Enhancement Act, both of which do apply to boards of education. And then there were a few things that we already talked about, the anti-bullying, the mental health data reporting, and the school security drills.
Thanks. Mr. Petroselli?
The next meeting for educational services is March 9th.
Awesome. Ms. Carella, Community Relations?
So as I just joined the board, I went to my first community relations meeting, and it's exactly what it sounds like. There's point people in all important parts of the community coming together to make sure that there's effective communication and that we're maybe dealing with all the different parts of the community. So we have a lot of people there, all really important people in the community, the mayor, the councilman, the chief, the superintendent, principals, school associations. It's a fantastic mix of people to make sure that we are making the best decision across the board and that everybody's included in the process. So of course we have some wonderful, exciting things going on for Kinnelon this year because it's our 100th year anniversary, and that's just such an exciting time. So we have a 5K run, a Roaring 20s party, town birthday celebration, which will be like an afternoon K-Toberfest. We're gonna have a townwide picnic, a carnival, and a K-Fest. So we just are making sure that, if the school is needed to help at any of those events, then we can do that. We talked about the possibility of getting, students that need volunteer hours to be involved in all of these things, so that they can get those hours for their college and that these events can have volunteers. So it's really a win-win for everybody. We talked specifically about the 8th grade year, about the students that are at Pearl Miller. And we're really trying to look at things from their perspective and from their experience and trying to make it the best year ever for them to really feel valued in this community and understand the benefits of coming to the high school and all the amazing programs that are often offered to them. So we talked about the possibility of doing an open house. We're looking at sports to kind of make it the transition a little bit smoother, maybe having the coaches go down and speak with the students and introduce themselves, the varsity coaches. We also talked about how at the high school we can have just the students know that while it is the same school district, KHS is very different than PRM. And we, I know we talked about it in the education meeting, but we also talked about it in community relations, just making sure that athletics and education are being really explained to the kids and let them know how all the things that we have to offer at the high school. And it was just a really great meeting. We also talked about how in the rec program, we can kind of create teams that will feed the high school sports. So there was talk about, we have this great golf and bowling team at the high school, so maybe they're going to start that in rec so that we could build interest in the kids and then have them go up to the high school. There was talk about the golf simulator coming so that we could do that. So lots of really great things going on there.
Thanks. Mr. Petroselli, KBOE liaison.
We are meeting next week, so we set up 2 meetings for the rest of the year, one in February, one in April. So the February one is next week, so we'll have more after that.
Okay, thank you. Camelot, Mr. Gigante's not here, and KEF, Ms. Stone's.
So we had a brief meeting this past week, and we're going to have another meeting on the 23rd at 7 p.m., I think that's what it says in my book. So if anybody wants to join, we're going to do it Zoom, so you can all give me an email, shoot me an email, and I'll add you to the link. And we're looking at a GoFundMe page. Hopefully the KEF website will be up and running by next